Alexandra Levine welcomes you to the Alexandra Levine Live Podcast. Today, we've got a packed show, from breaking news to informative topics that will keep you well informed. So, please click the subscribe button to get notified of her upcoming episodes. If you like what Alexandra talks about, then please share the Alexandra Levine Live to others. Alexandra also looks forward to your comments during this episode. Tonight's Alexandra Levine Live Podcast starts now.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine Live with the America's Pulse Network. You are all in tonight with me, Alexandra Levine. We have a jam-packed show tonight. But of course, as always, we have something called breaking news. Let's put up the first slide. So for some who can read it, great. I can summarize it for you. So this idiot, Joseph Kemp, who worked for National Counterterrorism under DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard, he resigned today. Why did he resign today? Because he said he was against the war in Iran. He said President Trump, told us that he wasn't a war president, that he wasn't going to put us into any wars for any years. And what does the a-hole do? He uses Israel as a scapegoat, blames Israel, blames the Jews as usual, and says that Israel put us into this war and that Israel is the reason why his late wife passed away. Well, his current wife, for people who don't know, has massive connections to Hezbollah. And what has the Israelis been doing? They have pummeling Hezbollah leaders all week. As you know, Hezbollah is a terrorist organization. So is Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and so forth. So why did this guy cave? Why did this guy turn into a Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes overnight? Is he being bought and paid? Now, to the credit of Laura Loomer, she has called out Joseph Kent. She called him out for months. Actually, she called him out for a year and said this guy should not even be a part of the ODNI. And even Laura Loomer has said that Tulsi Gabbard may resign over this. Tulsi Gabbard is also an America First person. She served our nation. She currently serves. And she was a former Democrat, turned independent, now Republican. And one of the biggest, criticisms of the Bush administration is that a lot of her friends died in Afghanistan and Iraq. And she did 2 tours of Iraq and Afghanistan herself. So for people who have been on these tours, for people who watch their friends die, I understand. But people also need to understand that Iran for years has been making and building and pushing nuclear weapons. This is something that has been happening for 46 years. The Islamic regime has risen for many, many years, and no president has touched it or done anything except for President Trump. Now, I know a lot of people are very upset about this. They say it's not America first, but you know what? This is something that needs to be done. This is something that is important that people need to understand, because Iran has been creeping into our nation for years with Obama and also with Biden. A lot of illegal terrorists from Iran have come to America illegally. And because of the Biden administration, they were not removed. There's a lot of illegal terrorists that live in the state of Maryland, in Montgomery County specifically. Also, the Mossad, which is the Israeli CIA and FBI, they proved multiple times that there was terrorists that were here in America illegally, that they were Syrian terrorists, that they were Afghani terrorists, Iranian and Iraqi terrorists, and so forth. People don't understand what's really going on in this country. They need to pull the curtain over their face and really delve into the layers, cut some of the layers of the onion to understand what's really going on. Or be like me, very learned about international and foreign affairs. Go visit the country. Go to Israel. Visit it. Mike Huckabee will be more than welcome to see you. So will Netanyahu, and so will Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel. As you know, I was in Hungary. I met with a guy who works under Viktor Orban, and we talked in depth. And you know what Marton said to me? I'm so happy that you that you care about what's going on as an American. And I thanked him for his wonderful alliance of President Trump with Israel. But it's smart to talk to other leaders of different countries to find out what their thinking and feeling is. It's really sad that we have Americans that have served our nation that are working under the pleasure of the president. When you work for a cabinet, OD&I, DNI, Secretary of State, Secretary of War, you are working for the pleasure of the president. When you are a chief of staff, you are working for the pleasure of the president. And these are jobs that people who really love President Trump tried to get and didn't get because of people like Joseph Kent. Now I've had enough of these rhinos, these Democrats, these people that have their own agendas when they get into these positions of power or they get hired under President Trump. This is a whole new ballgame, a whole administration. Joseph Kent is an a-hole. He shouldn't have been there to begin with. I do not fault President Trump for that. It is the people that heavily vet to put these people in power. I fault Tulsi Gabbard because she had the opportunity to kick his ass out, to ask him to resign, and he didn't early on when he was spewing out all this crap. He's proven based on this statement today that he is an anti-Semite. He has proven based on this statement that he did not have and never had Americans' best interests at heart. You put that uniform on, you serve under the American flag. If you want to serve under the Iranian flag and the Islamic regime of Iran, then you go over there and you fight with those people, or you fight with those people. You fight with the Ayatollahs. A lot of people have had enough. And President Trump is now, and with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, is giving the Iranian people the opportunity to take back their country, to get rid of the Islamic terrorist regime. President Trump is offering that to them. If they don't want to take it, it's their fault, not President Trump's. But President Trump said we are winning in Iran. He even announced today in the Oval Office that he's pulling back the American troops and that hopefully Americans can come back from Israel or wherever they are. And hopefully the Jewish people in Israel can have a nice Passover. Can we just have one good holiday? Can we just celebrate a holiday without Soros? Again, you do not blame President Trump for this. I wholeheartedly blame the Islamic regime of Iran and so forth. I blame Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Taliban, Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade, etc. Those are the people you blame. And for any American to turn their back on our country is treason. For any American who works under President Trump and turns their back on him, I find that the ultimate treason. Do not take on the job if you will not serve your commander-in-chief. Now the next slide. So right now as we speak, there's been debates on the Senate floor now to pass the Save America Act, which of course supports photo ID in federal elections, which gets rid of mail-in ballots, which gets rid of illegals voting in our elections. And this, again, once it passes on the federal level, it should be going to the states. The governors should be initiating this. Now, unfortunately, you have a lot of liberal states that have liberal governors that probably won't enact it. But remember, federal always overrides state, always. But why wouldn't anybody want free and fair elections? Why? Even Democrat Senator John Fetterman knows that this is important. And Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who's Mitch McConnell light, has been really hesitating to pass this because he's doing Mitch McConnell's dirty work. And he works with the Democrats on the side. But President Trump has warned him and said, the Senate does not leave. They do not take a recess until this is passed. Nobody should leave DC until this is passed. It has gotten to the point where Americans have called airlines and said, if you see a senator get on a plane, you tell them to get off. They should not be on the plane. They should be working for the American people. And Senator John Thune, he just announced that he wants to get the Save America Act passed because A, the pressure's on him, but B, it's the right thing to do. But let's see if it happens. Let's see if we kill the filibuster or do the other tactic where we don't have to get 60 votes, where we can just get 50 and then Vice President J.D. Vance comes in with the tie break. And of course, as you know, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna from Florida, she's also trying to enact FISA in here to push the Save America Act to pass. This is like a no-brainer, guys. A no-brainer. The House of Representatives passed it in April. It's already almost a year. It's a year. It's a year. And we're still dealing with it. and I know this is a distraction for the midterms. If we don't get this passed, it may hurt the Republicans in the midterms. And make a note of who voted for it and who didn't. Make a note of what Senate Republicans are not going to vote for this. Make a note. Next breaking news. So this was very sad, and I was actually surprised by this. Susie Wiles, who you know is the chief of staff of the president, she's doing a great job. President Trump loves her. She's one of the strongest people that President Trump knows, but unfortunately she has been diagnosed with early stage breast cancer and has decided to take on this challenge immediately as opposed to waiting. She has a fantastic medical team and her prognosis is excellent. During the treatment period, she'll be spending virtually full time at the White House, which makes me as president very happy. Her strength and her commitment to continue doing the job she loves and does do well while undergoing treatment tells you everything you need to know about her. Susie is one of my closest and most important advisors, is tough and deeply committed to serving the American people. She will soon be better than ever. Melania and I are with her in every way, and we look forward to working with Susie on the many big and wonderful things that are happening for the benefit of our country. President Donald J. Trump. Now, of course, you have all these alt-right conservative crazies that have called for her resignation. They think that she's responsible for a lot of these people that have been hired not well. But I can tell you it's about loyalty. And President Trump is all about loyalty. And Susie Wiles has been extremely loyal to the president. I met her when she worked for Rick Scott, and she did work for Ron DeSantis when he ran for governor the first time. So I know what a hard worker she is. And kudos to her for not stepping down. Kudos for her for wanting to continue to work for the American people. And, we don't know if President Trump, asked her to step down. I doubt that he did. And maybe the conversation didn't come up. We don't know what was discussed behind closed doors. It's also very private and personal to announce, not just to the country, to the world, that you have breast cancer. As you know, Ron DeSantis' wife, Casey DeSantis, she had stage 3 breast cancer. She had to get a double mastectomy. And that was very hard on the governor as he was going through a re-election campaign. And she talked about how weak she was, but she had to be strong for her children. She's 3 young kids. She had to be strong for them, and she had to fight. And it wasn't easy. And she went through chemo and radiation, and it's not easy. Now, the beauty of medicine today is there's so many things in advance. As you know, I work with a stem cell research doctor who specializes in cancer, whether it's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stem cell research is a very expensive treatment, but it does work. And it goes right intravenously into your veins. And I know people that have foregone going through chemo and radiation, and they get better. There's also been studies of ivermectin helping people with stage 4 cancer and other things as well. So you don't necessarily have to you don't necessarily have to go on chemo and radiation to minimize your cancer. You can do the natural route. A lot of people find that they survive or they live longer going the natural route, and that their cancer eventually disintegrates. I have a friend, she's had stage 1 uterine cancer for over 15 years. It has stayed at stage 1 uterine for 15 years. She's never done radiation. She's never done chemo. The doctors have told her she needs to get a hysterectomy. She can't have, they're like, you definitely can't have children, even though she can. She's still at age where she can. But she says, I'm not going to let them take my uterus, and I'm not going to go through all this chemo and radiation. I'm going to do it the natural way. And it has stayed at stage 1 for 15 years. And then some doctors say, well, you have precancerous cells. Some doctors have said you may not have cancer, you may have cancer. But the fact that it hasn't metastasized in 15 years is amazing. And she's young. She's like 45 years old. Usually the younger you are, the cancer metastasizes if you don't fix it, or if you don't do anything with it. But it's very, very good. It's very, very, good, the technology that is saying if you can catch it early, kudos to you. Of course, Susie has all the doctors basically that the president uses. So in my opinion, she will be in good shape, but our prayers go to her and they go to her family. Let's go to segment 1, please. So segment 1, and I'll get more into this in segment 3. So the topic is President Trump checkmates Tucker Carlson. Let's put up the first slide. So this was written by my Jexit spokesperson, Siggy Flicker. Siggy Flicker is also a national success. She also spoke at the ZOA convention, that stands for Zionist Organization of America, down in Miami. It's a huge conservative Jewish organization. Congressman Randy Fine was there, with many other famous peeps, many other conservative, pro-Trump people and pro-Israel people. So she writes, she wrote, Trump is a genius. He is always a few steps ahead of everyone. Trump knew Tucker was talking to Iran. So he invites him to the Oval Office before the strike, knowing Tucker will run straight back and relay it. Iran sees this photo, thinks Tucker has Trump's ear, thinks Trump is bluffing. Meanwhile, Trump's sitting there smiling, because he wanted them to believe it. Tucker's ego sells the deception. Khamenei buys it. And just like that, Tucker unknowingly helps take out the supreme leader. So basically, they're saying that President Trump set Tucker Carlson up, that Tucker Carlson's actually texting Iran while he was there. And the CIA actually usurped or ascertained the text messaging between Tucker and Iran. Now, as you know, Tucker Carlson has changed his tune about everything for years. He took over from Bill O'Reilly when Bill O'Reilly had the O'Reilly factor, and Tucker Carlson was doing great. He was making a lot of money. He was actually getting the same ratings, if not more, that Bill O'Reilly had. And people liked him. They liked him a lot. I liked him for a while. And then Fox News fired him. So when you have a huge contract with a huge network and all of a sudden you get fired and you have to start basically over again, and you have to kind of build your clientele, because what he had to do is build his take his viewership from Fox News and pivot onto his Tucker Carlson show podcast, which is on X and Facebook and whatever. You do lose money doing that because he had to work out of his home, his studio, but also he had to find a way to rebuild the audience and get back money and build back money and build an audience. So what's popular? What's going to give this man money? What's going to help him with the big mortgage that he has in Virginia? Or what's going to help him send his kids to school? Well, let's diss the Jews. Let's attack Israel. Let's make, that's a popular target. Let's say the word Zionist like it's a curse word. Like it's, kind of reminds me of Louis Farrakhan, calling the Jews dirty rats, saying someone's a Zionist. So if you're a Zionist, it's a bad thing. Zionism is bad. These idiots don't even know what Zionism means. They don't even know what it is. They're basically calling for the destruction of Israel. They're basically calling for Israel to not exist and for the Jewish people not to exist. But unfortunately, Tucker Carlson spins the narrative and makes it out like, oh, I like the Jewish people, but I hate Zionism, or I hate Zionists. Oh, I love the Jewish people, but I don't like Christian Zionists. Oh, I love the Christian people, but I don't like Christian Zionists. I like Christian people. I don't like Christians that support Israel. And Christ is king, Christ is king, Christ is king. I mean, that's what Nick Fuentes is pushing. That's what Candace Owens is pushing. That's what Megyn Kelly is now pushing. And it's really sad because it's taking a narrative and flipping it and making Israel the enemy. But it's not only making Israel the enemy, what it's doing is it's causing so much hell for Jewish people here in America, to the point that they cannot walk out of their homes wearing their Jewish stars, wearing their kippahs, putting mezuzahs on their doorposts, and holding their head up high. To the point that we're having a lot of destruction at synagogues in America now. I don't believe in coincidences. I wholeheartedly believe that the rhetoric coming out of Tucker Carlson's mouth and Candace Owens is perpetrating a lot of these terror attacks at synagogues, especially the one in Detroit. Now, Detroit, Michigan has a flood full of Islamic terrorists, a flood full of Islamic jihadists. And I know because I've been to Dearborn, Michigan, and we have Rashida Tlaib. She represents that district. She hates Israel, hates Israel. Her grandmother and brothers live in the West Bank, which 85% of those people support Israel's not right to exist. So it tells you a lot. It really tells you a lot. And the fact is that the more that Tucker Carlson spews out this anti-Semitic rhetoric, it's actually causing a lot of hardcore conservatives that I used to know to flip a switch and say that Zionists are scum, Jews are scum, synagogue of Satan. That's the new term. And it's not funny. It's not cute. And it causes a lot of problems, and it's causing a lot of anti-Semitic attacks. So right now, Tucker Carlson's under FBI investigation, or excuse me, CIA investigation for communicating with the enemy before the strikes. He saw President Trump before President Trump went into war with Israel. That tells you something too. The guy is treasonous. In my opinion, the guy should go to jail. I know Mark Levin and others have called for his deplatform. Unfortunately, you're dealing with the First Amendment. You can't deplatform somebody based on their, quote, freedom of speech. But the problem is his rhetoric is so dangerous that it's becoming very detrimental to Jews and Christians nationwide, specifically in America. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's rhetoric isn't good too. Matt Gaetz also, he did a 180. All these people, they're trying to make money. They're trying to make a name for themselves again. Megyn Kelly, again, she had the primetime slot, 9 p.m., after Bill O'Reilly on Fox News. She was making a hell of a lot of money. She gets fired from Fox News, goes to ABC, can't make it, or excuse me, NBC. She can't make it there. So she starts the Megyn Kelly show, and her mouth is like a toilet. She curses all the time. The F word is her favorite word. The woman is a known whore. She has screwed her way to the top. We all know that she had relations with Roger Ailes. She claims that she was sexually assaulted by him. But let me tell you something. She did a lot to get to that 9 p.m. slot. A lot. And she's a known whore. And she talks like a whore and acts like a whore. And she's very jealous of Erica Kirk and a lot of bigger names. Candace Owens, another idiot. Candace Owens, I believe that she was always anti-Semitic. I believe that she used President Trump and Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA to make a name for herself. Her husband is extremely anti-Semitic from the UK. Now, the funny thing is her father-in-law is actually very pro-Israel and has done a lot for Israel. And he actually had to come out and apologize for his daughter-in-law's comments. He says, I don't believe in what she says. I don't support it. Yes, she's entitled to her opinion, but I just want to let you know, I don't support it, because there was pressure on him. They're like, dude, your daughter-in-law is like going cray-cray. My concern is the children, because it even says in the Torah that the first 2 generations support you. The 3rd generation, they turn to hate you. Meaning whatever you teach your children in the home, whether it's pro-Israel, anti-Israel, whatever, but knowing Candace Owens is probably anti-Israel, her children are going to grow up and they're going to hate Zionism, Israel, they're going to hate the Jews, and so forth. And that's how anti-Semitism really escalates. There's a guy that's running for governor in Maryland. His name is Dan Cox. He told me that he was, hardcore Israel, very pro-Israel. I worked on putting legislation for him when he ran for governor. So if he won, this is what he would say to the Jewish people of Maryland. And I believed him. And I still believe that he's very pro-Israel, even though I haven't really gotten a response from him in regards to what his son has said about Zionists. And his son, Josiah Daniel Cox, who was a Green Beret who served our nation, told me that he loved Israel, that he worked with the Israeli Defense Force. He told me he learned Hebrew. His father, Dan Cox, said also that my son learned Hebrew and Jewish customs and has been to Israel many times and loves it. And when I addressed this to Josiah Cox, he said, I don't know what you're talking about. I would never do any Jewish customs. Jewish customs made me sick. Jews are pedophiles. They're scum. They're part of the synagogue of Satan. And I hope that every Zionist blows up and goes to hell. That's what he wrote to me on a Facebook post. Now, I thought I knew Josiah Daniel Cox. I thought I knew him. I thought he was a very pro-Israel guy. He reminds me that he's more alt-right than anybody, more alt-right than Nick Fuentes. And he says, down with Zionism, meaning down with the Jews, get rid of them. And this guy everyone's calling him a child on Facebook. Josiah Daniel Cox is not a child. He's in his early 20s. He just got married a year ago. He's not a child. He's a grown-ass adult. Now, I've called upon his father, Dan Cox, to make a comment, say something, or educate his son. And Dan Cox knows about these posts. I send it to him personally, directly, and privately. I have not heard a word from Mr. Cox. Now, I don't know who controls his social media, whether it's him, his daughter, whatever. But I can tell you, Dan Cox is extremely close to his family. He's got 10 children. Some of them are even homeschooled. This is not a situation where his son is like, he hasn't seen his son in 20 years. He's very close with his son. His son actually worked on his gubernatorial campaign and his congressional campaign, and is probably working on his second gubernatorial campaign. Yep. I'll bring that one up in a minute. You can bring that one again. So my friend Eric Dowtree, he said, Justin, Israel has officially launched a ground operation to pummel Iran-backed Hezbollah inside Lebanon. Quote, these ground troops are supported by tanks and ground units going slowly into Hezbollah-controlled territory. Hezbollah strongholds are also getting decimated by IDF strikes that happened last week. And that's why this idiot, as I said earlier, Joseph Kent, that's why he resigned, because his wife is a part of Hezbollah. But going back to the situation with the conservatives in our movement who have moved to this alt-right position, like Josiah Cox, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and so forth. I mean, Nick Fuentes is always alt-right anti-Semitic. But I'm very shocked at Josiah. I'm questioning if this was really Josiah's account or if somebody hacked it. And I told Josiah, look, I have to tell your father about this. I have to send it to him. So he writes me back, cope. So I wholeheartedly believe 100%, I'm looking into it with data scientists and data analysts, that this was really him, that it was really his account, and that he really feels that way about Jewish people. He's feeding into that alt-right narrative. And he's in that age range. Like I said, he's a 20-year-old, and I'm going to say Yiddish pishaka, which means a kid that pisses. But he's not a kid. He's a grown-ass adult. And he knows exactly what he's writing and exactly what he's saying, and it's dangerous. Somebody said to me, he sounds like he could be the next person to blow up a synagogue. I wouldn't go that far, but that's how these idiots start. But call them out. Don't be afraid to call them out. And for the record, I'm not doing a smear campaign against Dan Cox. I'm not. I considered him a friend for a long time. I'm not doing a smear campaign. I'm just holding people to the fire and holding his son accountable. And people say to me, well, you can't control what your kids say. Again, his son is not a kid. His son is a grown-ass adult. He's not 12 years old. He's not 6. He's a 23-year-old man just married who served our nation, who was a Green Beret, who's very close with his father. I'm not going to let this pass. I will not let this pass. And again, I asked Dan Cox, are you going to address this? Do you condone this, or do you condemn your son's comments? And I have failed to get a response from the man. Ball's in his court, as I wrote on Facebook. Ball is in his court. But Israel and the United States are winning this war. I know a lot of people want us out of this war. But it had to be done. A lot of people don't believe that, but it did have to be done. But I know I have a lot of people on my network and outside that don't support it, that don't believe this is America first, that believes that Trump is going against his campaign promises. But again, are we in a war for 17 years? No. It's only been 3 weeks. Hasn't been that long. Hasn't been that long at all. Remember, President Trump said, I'm the type of person, I go in, I get the enemy, and I get out. I go in, I bomb the crap out of whatever, and then I get out. He does not believe in wars for 17 years, like what President Bush did to us. So before you jump on President Trump, before you turn on him, first of all, you want to look into the person that is turning on him. But second of all, you have to peel the layers. You have to look at the underlying meaning of why we went into Iran, why it's so important that we continue to work with our ally Israel, that Israel helps us tremendously with military, technology, agriculture, etc. You must support your biggest ally. You must stand shoulder to shoulder with them. It is not putting their country first. And that's the difference between someone who is in a position of power and someone who isn't. If you don't want to work with your allies, you should not be the president of the United States. You shouldn't be in a position of high power. Now, President Trump did talk about NATO today. He thinks we should get rid of NATO or not even really deal with them. But there's some countries in NATO, such as Hungary, that he does support and will work with. and there's some that he can't stand. And I plead that question to my audience. Do you think that we should stay with NATO? Do you think we should have NATO allies or pull out? I think we should pull out of NATO. I push that question to you guys, the American people. Do you think we need NATO? Do you think we're better without them? And of course, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he calls for new leadership in Cuba. That's happening right now. Again, regime change. President Trump is looking for regime change worldwide. Well, coming up after the break, we have an exclusive interview with Daniel Eisenhart. He is running for state senate in District 6 in Maryland. That is a local race. As you know, we are in election mode right now. We will be interviewing a lot of candidates because we're approaching the 2026 elections. The midterms are coming up in June in the state of Maryland. I'm so excited that he is coming on our show. This is, I think, his first interview, and it's going to be great. And we will be right back, guys, after the break. Just before the break, don't forget my sponsor, rncstore.com/ALL. Let's put that up. Or maybe not. Oh, there it is. Hello. rncstore.com/ALL, not Folium PX. They have like two on at the same time. But Richardson Nutritional Center, get 10% off if you use the code ALL. If you do not put in ALL, you don't get 10% off. And of course, the more you spend, the more discounts you get. But Richardson Nutritional Center is great. Yes, he's very good, for preventions of cancer. If you have cancer, if you've had cancer, if you have autoimmune diseases, if you have issues with immunity, all of his stuff is great. I use Richardson Nutritional Center as well, and I feel stronger. My workouts are easier. I've lost a lot of weight from it. So go to rncstore.com/ALL, type in ALL, get the 10% discount code today. That's the QR code. Don't forget, when you watch my show, you can take a picture of the QR code and then go on the website automatically. I do want to say to everyone, thank you for the people that are watching this right now. We have a lot of viewership right now, a lot of comments. I will try to get to some of your comments in the second half. I'm sorry if I didn't. If you have any questions for our guest, please write the comments on and I will get to them, and so will my producer. Again, we are currently live on Facebook, on X, on Twitter, X is Twitter, True Social, Spotify, Substack, Parler, we're on Instagram. We're on 15 different platforms right now and growing. Thank you guys. Again, this is our 1-year anniversary. We are so happy. And I will be going down to CPAC in a week, actually a week from Wednesday. And that was the year that we launched America's Pulse Network. So we're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the America's Pulse Network. Don't forget to follow us at America's Pulse Network, and we'll be right back after the break.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a professional opera singer, actress, TV, and radio personality. Since 2015, I've been a volunteer, a field director, and a campaign manager, learning the ins and outs of the political world. That's why I became a political consultant. My job is to lead you to victory with organization, structure, and the mindset of winning for your district or state. With my guidance and direction, I can keep you focused on the things that matter to the people and advise you on key issues that need to be addressed. If you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, then book a consultation with me today. Go to levineconsulting.co. You'll be happy you did.
Well, hello, everyone. We are back with the America's Pulse Network. I'm Alexandra Levine. This is Alexandra Levine Live. We have an exclusive interview. This is probably his first interview. Special guest, Republican candidate for State Senate District 6 in Maryland, Daniel Eisenhart. Let's bring him up. I love that picture. I love that whole emblem that he did. It's beautiful. There you are.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. So, Daniel, sometimes I usually give an introduction of my guests to my audience, but I kind of want you to talk about yourself a little bit. So, give our audience just about a minute of who you are and why you're running.
I'm Daniel Eisenhart. I am running for State Senate in District 6. I'm a father, husband. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. Been in this neighborhood, my whole life. And I work in dentistry. I'm a dental care professional. And I'm ready to make a change for the community.
And what kind of change is that you want to make?
Well, the place is unsafe, and we need to get some legislation moving forward to try and combat crime, get the place smelling a little better. Those are the kind of things that are interesting me now. Moving forward.
And we'll get further on into that. But that's really good. I mean, crime, as you know, has been up in Baltimore County for years. The smell of Back River, the sewage is insane to the point where people are constantly getting sick. I do believe that there's hexaline chromium in the water of Back River. Hasn't been proven yet. We've been trying to bring Aaron Brockovich to Baltimore County to take a look at that Back River. That's something that Tim and I have been working on for a long time. But it's funny because, you're primarying out what we call a rhino, Republican in name only. You're trying to primary out a rhino. I'm not mentioning his name because I do not want to give him recognition. He's not someone that I am fond of. I've tried to talk to him over the years. He's very arrogant. And he really doesn't do anything for the district. And what we found out, or actually what reporter Mike Ruby found out, is that the guy technically doesn't live in the district.
Right.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, it did come to my attention. I've seen his article. He wrote a 5-page article. It went to print and to the newspaper. I think it's called The Peak. And it mentions that he hasn't lived in our community and in our district for some time now. And, it seems he has a home that was in this district he didn't live in, but apparently just recently it went on Zillow. It was sold. I think it's been sold. And so at least the question, where does this guy live? And, I wonder, I'm curious because I still live here and I still smell the area. My kids are in the public school right down the street. And, so I have my eye on, what's ticking around here.
Now, I know for a fact that some of the more conservative legislators, such as Bob Long, they're trying to push and say, hey, this guy doesn't live in his district. He needs to be removed from the state senate. He's breaking the rules. But because the guy's a rhino, he's got rhinos that support him and he's got Democrats that support him. And of course, in Annapolis, it's heavily Democrat. So it's kind of the issue that is happening right now. They're trying to prove more and more that this guy didn't live in the district, but because he is a rhino, they back and support him, which is disgusting. I know your district very well. Wouldn't you say your district is more of an America First district than a rhino first district?
Yes, I would agree. I would agree with that. The guy is very charming, and I think that he is misleading his constituents, and he has a lot of big donors. He has a lot of business that's backing him. He's well liked, and he's been here for 12 years. He's going on his 4th term. And he has a strong base, but I feel like there's a lot of people here that are questioning exactly what has he been doing for the last 12 years. And possibly somebody else should come in there with a fresh perspective, with some new ideas, get some vigor. I'm ready to really fight for our conservative, neighbors. Yes, absolutely. Because our constituents here, as you said, they want somebody who's going to fight for them. And I feel like the current senator, he's been there a while, and I think he has congressional admirations, and he's down there and he's like leading to Westmore and his Democratic agenda, and he's lost sight of us here at home, and sees DC, sees Annapolis. I feel like he's just lost touch of what's really going on with us, the people here, the people who don't have big money and big business and big donors, just regular guy.
It's funny because he kind of reminds you of Wes Moore because, your governor has aspirations to become, vice president of the United States. And people need to understand that this rhino, and I've said this, and I said this to you before the program, that rhinos and Democratic socialists are detriments to our nation. And your district is so hardcore Trump and so conservative, and they're trying to rhino your district. And I hope and pray that the people of your district, because I know every single one of them, I hope that they vote the right way. And I hope that they speak up and speak out and go to the ballot box and really vote more conservatives in and get these rhinos out. Because the rhinos, as you said, they've been here for 12 years. And a lot of people have said to me that they've seen a decline in your district, especially when the steel plant, Bethlehem Steel, closed down. As you know, they have Trade Point Atlantic. So how can, as a state senator, how can we bring more of those manufacturing jobs back to the district?
Well, it's going to be difficult. We're going to need to vote for a governor like, say, John Myrick or somebody, a conservative Republican that can come in here and make some of the changes at the top. As far as what we can do, we need to bring some industry here. We need to get the taxes down so we can get big businesses to come back, little businesses to come back. They're going to provide jobs. That's why I stand with Andy Harris, who is fighting Westmore, and there's like $7 billion funds that Westmore wants to put together for some programs, and Andy Harris is for this Transportation Project Accountability Act that's going to prevent that, so we can start spending some of the money that's going to be needed for infrastructure and things to bring these businesses back, to get the jobs for the people, and kind of bring this place into a whole new era. When Bethlehem Steel was there, we were well known around the world. And now this whole peninsula is just kind of going to the wayside because no one wants to come here and bring their business here. Taxes are too much, and it stinks.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Going into infrastructures, the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge collapsed, and your governor has said it's going to take 8 years to rebuild it. Well, that's actually not true. It doesn't take that long. When we've had hurricanes in Florida, my governor, Ron DeSantis, he rebuilt a bridge in months. So what is the status on that? What have you heard from the elected officials like Todd Crandall and Salling and Metzger and so forth, that haven't really budged to really progress the new, I would say that the new build of this bridge?
I tell you, crickets. I don't hear anything from Todd Crandall, from Metzger, or Mr. Salling. I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. When it comes to the bridge, it's a touchy subject because people live here and they need the bridge. We don't have it. And so I'm all ears to find out what can happen. I'm ready to go in there and streamline some things to make things move forward. But I'll be honest, it's a little outside my wheelhouse. I'm scratching my head just like you are. You asking me, I don't know the answer to that question.
I can tell you, State Delegate Bob Long, as well as Tim Fazenbaker, they've been working wholeheartedly to get this bridge up. I know that Bob Long contacted Sean Duffy to come, to Maryland and to take a look at it. And, President Trump would love to give federal funding to help, but of course your governor, pushes back on him, hates him, and wants to do things illegally. And, he's just shooting himself in the foot, because it's really hurting the people of Maryland to not have this bridge. As you said, we've lost a lot of jobs, and I wholeheartedly believe it's because we don't have the bridge. 30,000 people drove back and forth through that bridge, and the traffic is just insane in Maryland without the bridge.
Traffic is
and also your county executive, the former county executive, Johnny Oshefsky, who's the congressman in that in District 2, which consists of majority Baltimore County. And your current county executive, Kathy Klossmeyer, have done absolutely nothing to move the needle, to rebuild that bridge. And that's all about infrastructure. And that's something that, the people of Maryland are really looking forward to, and they want back. They want to bring back a bridge. They want that bridge back. They don't want the name changed, because Westmore was going to change the name to something crazy. I thank Bob Long for keeping the name of the bridge. And as you said, we need to have new leadership in there that care about the people, that want to do for the people of Dundalk and Edgemere and Sparrows Point. And I think you have Essex in your district as well. And it's important. It's very, very important that we get that bridge back. And also it's important that we get fresh blood. Another thing that's really big right now is, of course, as I talked earlier, the SAVE Act, free and fair elections. Baltimore County has been called a sanctuary county. There's a lot of illegals that live in Baltimore County, and they do not require photo ID to vote in the state of Maryland. What say you about that?
Well, I live in this area and I've been here a long time, and the demographic has changed considerably. And I feel like the SAVE Act is probably the most important thing that we should be talking about. We should have led with that, because the SAVE Act is so important, because without it, none of the stuff that we want to do is going to even matter anymore. If we don't get the SAVE Act moving forward, it's going to be really difficult to navigate. I feel like we'll become a socialist it'll be communism before you know it. The left will take over everything. And the SAVE Act is important. It's about the integrity of our election cycle. It's what makes America America. And we need to focus on that considerably, because U.S. citizens are the only ones that should be voting. Nobody else should be voting. And all the SAVE Act is going to do is prevent that people who's not supposed to vote don't vote. And if you go and you listen to Westmore and the left and their agenda, they're going to lie to you. They're lying to us. The rhinos are going to include some of them, at least a lot of them. Some of them are going to vote that way because, and they're hoodwinking us. They're gaslighting us to think that women aren't going to be able to get IDs and stuff. And come on, people are waking up. They just know that this is a sham. But people feel like, oh, the poor. It's almost a crime that we're even talking about this. But yes, the SAVE Act is it's important. It's very important. We all need to get our heads out of our and start telling our neighbors to do the right thing and vote for the SAVE Act.
I completely agree with you. I know a big thing, especially in Baltimore County, we have something called corrupt internal election personnel, which means it's the election judges, it's the people that work at the Board of Elections, it's the USPS people that actually have a lot to do with the destruction and the undermine of the elections. A lot of the USPS workers, they backdate the ballots. You don't have bipartisanship. With the ballot counting, you're supposed to have a Republican and a Democrat, and you don't. There's not enough Republicans in the state of Maryland to do strict bipartisanship. Also, you have rhinos that work for the Board of Elections, such as Will Fuhr, that actually support biasly the rhinos that are running, and that's a big issue too. I know people have called for his removal because someone like that, who is friends with Salling and Metzger and some of these other rhinos that are running in your district, in your very hardcore conservative district, people are afraid that they're going to ruin it. For someone like you or someone like Tim and so forth. What say you about that? About these people that they're legals, they're legal citizens, but they could possibly start some corruption at the Board of Elections.
Well, we've seen what's been going on. There's all kinds of reports that things were happening in Georgia and here and there. And so is it going to happen again? It's certainly probable. We need to do something about that. We can't just let it go by and sweep this under the rug or not discuss it. Legislation has to be written. Laws have to be here to protect us, the voter, and our vote, my vote, your vote. So absolutely, we need to do more for that. People like Will, he's been around in this community a long time, and he's well known for not showing up at some of the events that he's supposed to do. So I'll be honest, I don't necessarily trust him to be the person to oversee that for me and my vote, my family, to make sure that the integrity is maintained.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just want to make a point. When I spoke to Marton in Hungary, they have full law enforcement. They have like diplomats, ambassadors. I mean, they have like high people in power that oversee the elections to make sure that they're free and fair. I wish that they had that here in America. I always say, Europe does it right. Why can't Americans' elections be like Europe elections? Because they're free and fair, and you find out the results on the day. So that's something that is really important. I know President Trump is pushing into that. Last point, safety. Safety is huge. As you see, there's a lot of anti-Semitic attacks, a lot of attacks on churches nationwide. We just had an anti-Semitic terrorist attack at a synagogue in Detroit. It's happening in Baltimore County, and they say that unfortunately a lot of Baltimore City is creeping into Baltimore County. As the next state senator, writing laws, how can we put laws into place for safety and security in a lot of these communities that may be more susceptible for attacks?
Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of people here that obviously haven't been here from 5 or 10 years ago. It's likely that in my community and your community and the community that neighbors us, that there are people who came illegally across one border or another and are preparing to do these attacks on us. So I'm hoping that, and I would assume that there are plenty of organizations like the FBI and these that they're doing something as far as trying to locate where they are and put people on the ground to,
like DHS, for example.
Yes, we need to give them more money, and we need to make sure that they have all the support and the resources that they need. We're spending money on like light rails and stuff like that right now we don't necessarily need. That money needs to go to things like that we do need, and that's to continue with the ICE. I wish that Maryland would work a little more closely with the local government, so that it wasn't that you don't have to send 10 officers to find one bad guy. You could just go pick one up from the jail or from wherever he's he's been detained. So I would increase the ICE. I would increase trying to get them out of here and naming them and documenting them so that we can get in front of a potential attack. It's sad that these things are happening.
One thing I want to add that, or I want to add to, is you have county councilmen that are running for county executive, like Itzi Patoka and Julian Jones, that have pushed anti-ICE legislation. So they're literally going against the federal government, which is illegal. The fact that it was voted in council, and the fact that it's in law is asinine to me and ridiculous. What say you about that?
I've been vocal about Mr. Patoka. Listen, I live right behind the school here. There was hundreds of the people that were protesting. I videotaped it. I think it's appalling that the schools would allow that to happen. And Mr. Patoka, he went to Parkville High School. He was on the news, got his moment, and was encouraging these people to do so. These kids are needed to be in school, and they're protesting law enforcement, and the left and the rhinos and the Democrats. They think that this is totally okay. I don't think it's okay. I think these kids need to be held accountable. More than anything, the school needs to be held accountable for allowing them to do that. ICE has a job to do. It's a dangerous job. It's been there for a while. They did the same work for the previous administration, for the Bidens. They did the same work for Obama and them. And all of a sudden now it's a problem. It's go back to hoodwinking and gaslighting us. I feel like people need to wake up.
I agree. And I just want to say for the record for my viewers that Julian Jones, he stood by a lady who held up a sign, if your mother supports, or if you support ICE, your mother is a hoe.
Yes, he did.
And he thought it was funny, but it's not really funny. Say that to the mother of Rachel Moore, and say this to the mother of the Nobles girl, Tammy Nobles. She lost her daughter to an illegal alien, illegal criminal.
Yeah, MS-13 member. And there's really nothing you can do for the judges. The judges let these people out, but right. I think there's some room for possibly writing laws that when these violent offenders are let go right back out on the street, that we have some kind of oversight, so they have to almost put their name attached to it so that they can do it. You can't stop them from doing it, but you could probably make something so that they may have to write a letter to why they're doing it. So they may have to justify.
It's disgusting that Democrats wouldn't support safety for their constituents. And as we saw in the State of the Union address, President Trump, he was meticulous and a chess player when he said, raise your hand if you support, or if you don't, raise your hand if you support Americans first, before illegals. And you see like all these Democrats and rhinos, they don't raise their hand because he proved that they support illegals. And it's disgusting. It's really disgusting.
I just want everybody to know that I'm a constitutional Republican and I am an America's first Republican. I'm here for the people who are an American. And if you come from Israel or Mexico or Saudi Arabia or anywhere, and you're a documented legal citizen, then I'm for you too. But if you're cutting the line, you jump the fence, and you're here now, I feel like you need to take that money that President Trump is offering you, go home, get in line, fill out the paperwork, and come back. And I look forward to seeing you when you get back.
Yeah. I talked to Martin from Hungary. I said, how long does it take for, someone like an American citizen to obtain Hungarian citizenship? How long does it take? And he said like 6 years, which is like not a lot. And I know an Israeli that wants to become an American citizen takes like 7 years. But these people come into America illegally and they're not a legal citizen for 23 years. And I'm like, start the process. Stop reaping in the benefits. Like it only takes 7 years. And then you're a legal citizen of this country. It's asinine to me why you came here illegally. You want to stay in illegal. You will eventually get caught. You will eventually be deported. Like why cause yourself the pain? Just come here, get the citizenship. It'll take you 6 or 7 years, and that's it. Forget about it.
I'm a law and order guy. I just feel like consequences.
Law and order girl.
Consequences change behavior. I know from my own personal experience, and I have children I'm raising right now. It's the carrot or the stick. Which one do you want? And I just don't get why the Democrats, in power and in leadership, they're just letting these guys right back out on the street. Children alike, juvenile justice. It's the kids they're creating a lot of havoc, and they're acting like adults, carrying guns and doing.
I do want to. You have a couple questions. From our friend Tim Fazenbaker. Actually, he wanted to know thoughts on foster care.
I grew up in some foster homes. My mom got sick when I was about 15 years old, and so I did high school, finished high school in foster care, and I seen a lot of things that weren't great in that process. So for one thing that I would like to do that might even sound a little bit leaning to the left, it might be something a Democrat would do, would be I want to look into oversight of these kind of programs. If you're in those programs, there's nobody there to look out for you. And I feel like there needs to be some accountability. We need to at least get together a committee of some folks, a small group that go and report to someone like myself or somebody, so we all know exactly what's going on there. There was a young girl in Baltimore City that they put in a hotel room and died.
Yeah,
so
I read that.
As a parent, as a dental care professional of children's dentistry, I'm real passionate about the kids. And that just can't happen anymore. If I get elected, I'm going to do whatever I can to help these underprivileged kids navigate through that life. We can't forget them just because their parents died of cancer and they don't have relatives to care for them. They're not bad kids. Their parents are sick.
I agree with you. One thing I do want to touch on before we go, because we mentioned the smell of Back River, and I've driven down that corridor. I know people have gotten massively sick. As I said earlier, I do believe, I can't really confirm, but I do believe that there is hexavalent chromium in that water, which is what Aaron Brockovich found out in California. Like I said, Tim and I have been working on trying to get Aaron Brockovich here because she's a known environmentalist, getting the EPA here. I know Lee Zeldin was here, but he didn't have a chance. He didn't have enough time to really go to Back River and take a look at it. And it's disgusting. For anybody who knows, it's really gross. You can't fish in the water. You can't swim in it. You will get a disease. It is so nasty. So, educate my viewers a little bit about Back River. And as the next state senator, what is your goal to to fix Back River? Do you believe that we should just, I would say, deconstruct or get rid of the whole wastewater management plan and maybe just, redo it? What is your plan?
Well, I've told everybody the first thing I want to do is go after the Back River and the treatment facility. And I want to do that by working with, environmental and transportation and going over all the waterways in Maryland, not just with focusing on my backyard, because the stuff that's going on in the Potomac is a nightmare as well. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of groups, a lot of organizations, a lot of people that have already put in a whole lot of work already in this area. So I'm not going to go to be the one-man show and knock in the door and say, fix it today. It's not going to happen overnight, but there's a lot of groups out there that have done a lot of work. You got the Maryland Department of Environment, there's the Maryland Department of Public Works, and then there's the Maryland Environmental Service, who took over for the Public Works at one point because Public Works wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. My family is involved in the Back River Restoration Committee, and they're putting together a wheel. So I'm going to make sure that they get that wheel. It looks like it's coming down the pipeline. And by the end of the summer, it should be made. But I'm going to make sure that gets done and that they have an engineer to maintain it so it doesn't get broke down like in Baltimore City. There's the Maryland Waterways Foundation, the Chesapeake Bay Trust. There's a lot of different groups that already have vested interests. They have data. And I hope that I can get them all together and unite them. They don't work well together always. And find out what we need, what's working, what don't work. I don't know everything that's going on. Like I want to know about those forever chemicals you speak of. But those guys they'll know. We can figure out what needs to happen, and then we got to get with the Baltimore City. They're in charge of that place. Yep. Why would they want to fix it? It's in our backyard, not theirs. So we're going to go and knock on some doors, and if they get closed, then we're going to write some legislation that creates some.
I have a question. Sorry to interrupt you. Have you been to the power plant yourself recently? Have you been there?
Well, I launched my family. I have two aunts that live right on Riverside Drive. That when they're backyard, you can see it. And I launch my boat from Cox's Point 3-4 times a week during the summertime with my kids. We're in it all summer long, and we go right down to Hart Miller Island, and we play in that water. So I have a vested interest to make sure it gets cleaned up.
Just for the record, your opponent with his friend Rick Metzger had been on record and video saying there's nothing wrong with Back River. Back River is great, and there's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Let's say about that.
If I'm not mistaken, that happened in around 2022 at the end of his second term. Conveniently enough, before the beginning of his third term. And I tell you, I've been looking at all of his bills that he's been making, okay? And I don't see any of them over his third
12 years.
Term. Yeah, he hasn't been yeah, you went there, and he hasn't been back all term. And now, and so that's why I'm here. I'm here to tell you that I'm going to make it happen. I know a lot of people are angry to hear me say that because there's been so many people that tried before me. What makes me think I'm going to get it done? Because I'm going to fight for you guys. I'm not going to give up. That's why I think I'm going to.
Well, I can tell the American people, for the record, Mr. Salling, he claims he's America First, yet he's voted for state-funded abortions. He voted for the Kerwin bill, which was one of the biggest tax hikes in Maryland. Also, his buddy, Rick Metzger, was the only Republican in the House that voted for the second biggest tax hike in Maryland. And that just shows you, the nature of these guys, the nature of their makeup, and how they say one thing, to your face, and then they vote the other way. And that's what people need to understand. These rhinos are liars, and I can say that because I've met these gentlemen, and they lie to the American people. They lie to their constituents. They accuse others of doing stuff that they do, and they can't back up. They lie about these other people, but they have no evidence to back up their accusations. So, I challenge your constituents. I challenge your voters. I know a lot have finally. It's taken them 6 years to realize that these rhinos are not who they say they are, and I implore them to hold their elected officials to the fire. And like you said, you took the time and the research to go through Mr. Salling and Metzger's bills. I encourage anyone that's running in that district to do the same, because you need to know what they're voting for. They come in and they act like they're awesome. They come in, they act like they want to help you, but look at what they're voting for. Look at what they really support and who they really support. And that's what's really important. Last minute, you get the final word. Anything you want to talk about? And also let my viewers know how we can donate to your campaign.
Well, I tell you, you mentioned him misleading his constituents and with these silly bills. I looked into those bills. One of those bills was from last year. It had to do with taxing bikes, e-bikes. So he wanted to get registration for the bikes. He wanted you to have a license and have insurance. That's not necessarily that it's a bad idea, except for it's not very conservative. It's not something that I want you wasting your time on taking care of.
Actually, Delegate Mark Fisher called it the dumbest bill that was ever presented.
A waste of time.
A waste of time.
And then I called him out on it, and he told his constituents that I was misleading people. He said that it was filed by accident by somebody else. But I looked into it further.
Nope.
He amended that bill once. He got a lot of backlash from some bicycle people, 2 different groups of bicycle guys.
I remember.
So he amended it. He changed some things around. And then he pulled it down in March of 2025, which is just before they start to vote on that stuff. So he had that bill going for a while. He wrote it. His name's on it. He amended it and telling his people that there's a guy misleading him and that somebody accidentally did it. That's on his Facebook.
Yep. And I can also tell you for the record, he does block his constituents on Facebook, which is disgusting. If you have a discrepancy or disagreement with your constituent, you call them in and you want to work with them and talk to them. By blocking them, it shows that they don't care about you, that they have their own hidden agenda. And that's not what you want in a lawmaker. Not at all.
I want you to know this. I don't want to say anything bad about Sound. He knows my aunts and uncles on my mother's side, my father's side, and my stepfather's side. He's been a pillar of the community. They all like him because he grew up around here. And I just feel like that if you feel like over the last 12 years you're getting what you want, if it smells like you want it to smell, and if you feel like if you feel like these bills that he's doing, go, like you said, I asked you to look at what he's doing. Look at what he's been doing down there. And if you feel like that this is really what you want, then I suppose you vote for him. But if you want somebody that's going to go in there and fight for you and make some change and do what's right for the conservative Republican American here in our part of town, then you should vote for me. You want to vote for me. I want your vote.
I just want to say for the record, he is a member of the Calgary Baptist Church. They're hardcore Christian. They do not believe in abortion. And when they found out that Mr. Salling voted for state-funded abortion, a lot of people did not vote for Mr. Salling in the primary when he ran for Congress against him in 2020. In 2020, actually, a lot of his constituents switched and moved and actually voted for Mr. Phasemaker in the primary. And that shows you that when not myself, but when others, showed the priest of Calgary Baptist Church and the congregants what their elected official or this guy who goes to their church voted for, they were like, oh my God. They're like, we thought this guy was holier than thou. We thought he was a great Christian, a great this, a great that. And again, he goes to church. He acts like he's this big, holier than thou guy, like he's the Pope. But again, you have to really, like you said, delve in, do the research, show the bills that he has passed, show the bills that he supports, that he sponsors, and send it to the congregants at the church. Send it everywhere. It's public record. It's not private record. This is all public record. You should know what your elected officials are voting on. You should know what they want to do for you. And I applaud you for primarying him, because a lot of people are afraid to. But I applaud you for getting into the arena. I know this is your first time running for anything. Mm-hmm. I appreciate what you're doing. I know that you were pushed at first to run for the Central Committee in Baltimore County, the Baltimore County Republican Central Committee. But you said, you know what, I got to go the extra mile, and I'm going to go in and run for state Senate and primary this rhino out, because I can tell you more people are waking up, especially in your district, to these rhinos. And President Trump has primaried out a lot of these rhinos because he's tired of it. And the American people have #had enough of these morons. And like you said, it's been 12 years of the same old. And Tim even said the area is worse since the politicians were elected in 2014. I agree with him on that, because I've been there for 6 years and I see the decline of your district. And that's because these rhinos are still in place. That's why we need conservatives like yourself, conservatives like Mr. Fazenmaker, Henry Ziskowski, who's running for state delegate on District 6, great guy that I endorse. And I just want to say for the record, my network and my show wholeheartedly endorse you. You have our full endorsement and support. Yep. As you know, I am a White House reporter with the network. I'm part of the new conservative me at the White House. So Caroline Levitt, I do send her information on candidates and stuff like that. She can't go into campaign because she works for the administration, but I kind of give her a list of who this person is, what they represent, what they stand for. So you will definitely get a little message from her from me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming on our network. Again, how can my audience find you?
Well,
how can they donate to you?
You can mail me our campaign committee a check from my name, Daniel Eisenhart, at 1907 August, like the month, Avenue, Dundalk, Maryland, 21222.
Now they can't write the check directly to you. What is your campaign?
It's Eisenhart's in your community with Daniel
Eisenhart's your community.
Eisenhart's, but it's eyes like eyes and hearts in your community with Daniel Eisenhart, my name, for office.
Awesome. And who's your treasurer?
My wife, Kelly.
I love it. I love it when spouses are the treasurer. I love that.
You met my family. And
yes, your wife is wonderful. Your children are great. It's so, I love it. And I see this with Tim too. When the families are involved, but also when there is family support. And it's a lot when you run. It's a lot. And it's a sacrifice for the family. And the fact that your wife and your kids are behind you, I find that amazing. I love that. I really do.
Yes, I do want to tell your audience that I am running for Central Committee again, as I'm an alternate now. I represent Dundalk when needed to, with Tim Fazenbaker. And as you said before, I'm also running for state Senate. I want your vote. I appreciate your time here. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much. And you are more than welcome to come on my show anytime.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Before we go to our third segment, don't forget we have our second sponsor, foliumpx.org. Let's put that up. Awesome. Foliumpx.org, toxic heavy metals, full body detox, free radical support. Again, I don't know why we have the RNC picture with the Folium PX QR code. They're kind of like the same,